Welcome, everybody, to Let's Discuss Mexico. How's everybody doing today? Um, I know everybody's been wondering. I've been kind of off the grid. So today I'm doing a live stream for our October live stream, like I promised that I'd be doing it once a month. And we'll be doing a live stream. I'm going to let you know a little bit about what I've been up to and why I've been off the grid a little bit. And hey, T Walker, greetings. Greetings to you too. And all the way from Florida. And Steffi, oh, you've been away for a couple of months. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I've been up to for a little bit is I've been kind of busy. As I've told you before, I'm building a house in Monterrey, and I've been really, really, really busy with that and trying to get everything squared away. So I've been really, really off the grid a little bit, and I really apologize for that. But I'm going to be getting back to my videos. I have a couple in store. We also have our Relocating to Mexico show. I also am doing a few collaborations with other YouTubers. This on the 26th, I believe it's on Wednesday, I'll be appearing on Almost Retired in Mexico on their YouTube channel, on their live stream, along with Mexico Relocation Guide. Hey, Denise, how are you doing? So I've been kind of busy, and also I've been just taking a little bit of a YouTube break. Just taking a break from the rat race, you might say, the YouTube rat race. So I've been just taking this opportunity that I'm busy to take a little time away from YouTube and regroup. But like I said, I was going to promise everybody that I'm going to do a once a month live stream. And this month will be our October live stream. And I am also doing a collaboration with a podcast. I'm going to be coming out on a podcast very soon, which we're going to discuss a Mexican residency, actually, on that podcast. It's a podcast from a very well-known podcaster. And so I've got that project going too. So I have a lot of things on my plate. So basically, that's what I've been up to. I decided to label this "Where's Sirdragonx?" because I know that I've been kind of off the radar for a little bit, but that's basically what I've been up to. And I guess we're going to kick off today's live stream. I have a couple of viewers here today. We have T. Walker from Florida, Steffi, Yamilet, and Denise from Merida. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to open up the floor. Today we don't have any particular topics. What I want to do with this live stream is maybe through my Facebook group, I'm going to put an open post up pretty soon to see what kind of subjects that you all might want to cover, and maybe even see if I can start bringing guests on. But that's something for the future. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, let's see if we've got any. Oh wow, we have someone, Elizabeth from Nova Scotia. How are you doing, Elizabeth? Elizabeth's been a long-term viewer of my channel. I didn't know you were from all the way from Nova Scotia. Welcome, Elizabeth. Actually, I'm very, very impressed that we have people from all over today. So what I'm gonna do in my Facebook group, like I was saying, is I'm gonna go ahead and I am going to start maybe a post where people can suggest topics, and we can do those particularly. But I'm gonna stick to right now, and for my future streams until we get that squared away, I'm going to stick to asking questions about moving to Mexico, living in Mexico, those types of things. And we have Jody Lynn Jenner, and she's from Puerto Vallarta. And so we have a lot of people here today. And Denise is asking if I can tell you about the home building process, tips and tricks. I just bought a house. Um, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you my experience with building and actually owning homes here, because I actually own a home in San Miguel de Allende. That's the first place that I moved when I retired. I actually retired in the end of 2017, and we moved to San Miguel de Allende. I bought a house there. Now, the house I bought in San Miguel de Allende was already built. So basically, it was just a matter of signing a contract with the builder who built the house. And then once we signed the contract with the builder, we went to the notario and we basically closed on the house. We we sent a deposit, I believe, and then at the time of signing, we brought the rest of the deposit. Now, um, fast forward to this year, May of this year, I sold my house in Texas, and so we decided to go ahead and invest in Monterrey. My family, I have family here in Monterrey, and I also most of my medical treatment was done in Monterrey. So therefore, I decided that we've been going and making a lot of trips back and forth to Monterrey. So why don't we just kind of build a house there and make that our home base? Um, that was a little. The house in Monterrey is a little bit different because we purchased the property, and it is in a gated subdivision. We're utilizing the builders from the subdivision, but we are starting from scratch. Basically, we picked out our lot, we bought our lot. Um, Basically, we went and signed on a piece of we paid for the piece of property through a bank transfer at the time of signing, and we basically went in front of a notario. We're still waiting on our escrituras, like always, which is something that takes a while. And then we got together with the architect and decided now this particular subdivision, we get to pick what we want and how we want it. We got custom made plans for us based on another floor plan that they had, and we're basically paying in payments. They basically gave us a price per square foot or per square meter, actually. And then they give you allowances, just like they do in the United States. And then basically, we're in the stages right now. They just did the roof. They just made the roof. But one of the big tips and tricks that I'm going to tell you is one of the things that you want to do, especially when you're constructing a house, is to make sure that you go out to the construction site a lot, because a lot of times we did a plan and basically there was supposed to be a window here and then the window wasn't there, and then we said, well, why isn't there a window? Well, we forgot. So those are a lot of things that if you don't keep up with it, that's one of the things that you don't want to be at the very, very end going, my window's not there. So that's one of the biggest tips, is going there a lot. And that's one of the things that we've been really busy doing. We've been going out to the property almost every day. And then not only almost every day have we been going out to the property, but we've also been choosing the tile and all of that stuff. So it's a very involved process. Now, if you get a prefabbed home with not a prefabbed home, but sometimes you buy in preventa, where you just pick out a model and you just pick out the colors, and basically they build the house and they have the material. So that's my biggest tip. And I will be bringing, what I am doing with my house build is I've been going out there and flying my drone, and basically taking a little bit of pictures of the house as it goes. So I'm gonna share that with everybody, and let's see here. So that's, as far as the house, that's the best I can tell you right now. We're still in the process. Wise Owl, those considering moving to Mexico in the future should know that at least one consulate in the U.S. has already raised the monthly income requirement to $3,000 US. And actually, Wise Owl, I actually heard about this. I don't know which consulate it is, but I just saw it on the Facebook groups that someone was saying that they're at $3,000 a month. I'm assuming because the formula is about at $2,700 a month. But one thing that I always tell everybody is you've got to be careful because the formula is based on the minimum wage, and usually for a temporary residency, it's 300 times the minimum wage a month in monthly income, or 500 times the minimum wage if you have it in savings, and you have to show that in your you have to show that on your you have to actually show that to the consulate in your bank statements. One of the things that a lot of people say is, well, the exchange rate is 20 to 1, so it should be 2,500. But the consulate's telling me that it's 2,700. And, what happens is you got to understand that the consulate is the one that determines everything. They determine what the number is, period. Whether they're using a formula or they're not. Most of the time, those variations that increase, because it's about $2,700, so it's probably about a $300 increase. So it could be that consulate is saying, we're no longer accepting a 20 to 1 exchange rate. We're only going to accept a 17 to 1 or an 18 to 1 because we predict that the economy is going to change. It could be for any reason. Down in McAllen, Texas, they lowered it to $1,700, which is nowhere close to the formula. And the only thing I can think of is they may have been using the UMA formula. But even at the UMA formula, if you do the actual calculations, it doesn't really come out exactly. So what these consulates do is use those as a a guide. Now, what I will tell you is we're coming towards the end of the year, and what we may see is a rise in it may go up to $3,000 everywhere, because we're looking at a formula that's tied to the minimum wage. So if you have this formula that's tied to the minimum wage and you have the minimum wage increase, last year it was 22%. And right now the predictions are that it's going to be another 22 to 25% in minimum wage. So if that minimum wage increases, then you are going to have at least a minimum of $3,000 a month. So it may be that they're even anticipating the change. There's no telling of what it is. And now Steffi is saying that I'm in New York City retiring from the federal government. Welcome. I'm a federal retiree also and planning to move to Mexico or perhaps Panama. My sister is now lobbying for Panama. I'll tell you what, I've been to Panama for work, actually. My wife lived in Panama for a little while. I don't know. And then Steffi says here, I'm still grappling with the health insurance challenge, Ernie, and wonder if you have any tips on the value of FESB, or should I ditch it in favor of expat insurance? The first part of your question is, I prefer Mexico. I really like Mexico. I think it's a little bit more affordable. Panama at one time was very affordable to live in. I know a lot of expats that have moved to Panama. I also have a lot of, I have a coworker that lived in Panama, that actually grew up in Panama. But Panama is becoming more expensive. They're a dollarized economy. They use the dollar. And so you don't have that variable and exchange rate and that type of thing. And I think you can get more value for your money in Mexico. Now, as far as your second question about the the expat insurance or FESB. I'm under the FERS retirement plan. And I know a lot of you are going to say, what the heck is that? It's basically a federal retirement plan. Now I'm under the law enforcement retirement plan, which is a little bit different. But what Steffi is talking about is that she basically gets to keep her health insurance from the federal government. Here's the problem, Steffi, and I'm going to tell you what the problem is if you ditch that federal insurance. Once you get off of FESB, you can't get back on. So once you make that decision to ditch it, you can't say, hey, by the way, I want it back. And that's the big problem that you run into with ditching your FESB. Now, what I will tell you is how it's benefited me. I don't have expat insurance. I actually have private Mexican healthcare insurance. It runs me about, I think, $300 a month. But I have that insurance it's kind of more of a backup. And then I pay through my FESB. I have mail handlers, which is Aetna, and I also pay the premium for that. But I know some people can't afford both. Or also, I actually did a video on healthcare, or actually this next relocating. I didn't do a video. I did a video on healthcare, the different healthcare systems. But this next episode of relocating to Mexico is going to be about the healthcare system here in Mexico. Where FESB helped me out was when I got cancer, because I got cancer right around the time that I was moving to Mexico. So I didn't have a Mexican healthcare insurance. The other thing you're going to find out about Mexican healthcare insurance is if you have a pre-existing condition, they won't cover you. So basically what I did was I actually talked to my insurance, Aetna, mail handlers, and they told me not a problem. So they cover me through reimbursement. Now you're going to say, well, what if I have a major health condition? I'll be perfectly honest with you. I had to do my first MRI, which cost several $1,000s in the United States. They cost me $260 here, and I had it reimbursed 90% by my insurance. My radiation therapy ran about 200,000 pesos, and which is about 20 some odd $1,000. But in the end, my insurance company reimbursed me at 90%. So my out-of-pocket costs were basically less than if I would have gone to the hospital in the United States and gotten the same treatment. The only thing is I had to come up with the money up front. What we do is we have a credit card with a very high credit limit on it. And if I need any kind of health care, I usually 90% of the time I go to a private health care. I go ahead and pay up front, and I use my American insurance, my FESB insurance, and they cover me overseas. The only thing is I have to get the receipt. I have to fill out the claims manually. So that may be an option for you, Steffi, and holding a separate private insurance policy. One of the reasons why I hold a separate, now my private insurance policy won't help me if my cancer comes back. So I need to keep my FESB, and also because they don't cover this pre-existing condition. But at the same time, I'm also covered by tomorrow if I get a heart attack. If I have to go into a hospital or the ambulance has to come and get me, I know that I'm covered by insurance and that I don't have to be coherent or, that type of thing to get medical care. So that's why I get a major emergencies because here in Mexico in private healthcare, a lot of times they won't you can be sitting in the emergency room and they won't attend to you until you pay what you need to pay. So, we just have that second policy for security. The other thing too, Steffi, is you don't know if you want to go back to, let's say Mexico's not for you. Even if you go to Panama and you have expat insurance, one of the things that you need to take into consideration is, what if you need to go back to the United States? Or what if later on in your older age, I don't know, you may have to go back. Then you may have to look into those options, and you won't have that FESB if you get rid of it. And that's one of the things that, yeah, it costs me a couple of $100 a month, but I don't get rid of it. And actually, I'm not of Medicare age yet. So I don't know what I'm going to do when I get to Medicare age. I don't know how my insurance handles it. And I've got to look into it a little bit more. But FESB, I would definitely keep it, and maybe look into something local for emergencies. And then what I will tell you about medical care here, sometimes I don't even file a claim because it's $30 to see the doctor, which would be my copay anyway. Or if it was $250 for an MRI and I just don't feel like, not that I'm wasteful or anything else, but normally if it's over $100 or whatever, I file a claim. But the point I'm trying to make is that private healthcare can be very, very affordable here. So sometimes you don't really have to worry about that care. What we worry about more is catastrophic events. And Denise says Phillies are headed to the World Series. You know what? I haven't kept up with baseball, but that's great to hear. And let me see. Lobbying for Panama should be done in China and not in capitalist predatory zone. Like I said, Kevin, I'll tell you what, like I said, I don't know much about Panama. I've been there for work. I've worked with the Panamanian officials there. I couldn't tell you too much about living there, to be honest with you. It's a very international place. So it doesn't, surprise me if China is moving into Panama. And Kevin also pointed out, as I think Medicare is useless in Mexico and they make the disabled pay for it right out of their already insufficient check. Let me tell you something about Medicare in Mexico. Medicare does not cover you in Mexico. And it does not cover you in Mexico. And a lot of people have asked me this question, is what do people do on Medicare? And that's one of the things we're going to cover in my Relocating to Mexico, this month's episode of Relocating to Mexico. There are some Medicare plans through Medicare Advantage that will cover emergencies in Mexico. But really, all they'll really cover you is until you get stabilized and can get taken back to the United States. And then you're also at the mercy of the Medicare Advantage plan, because they determine what is actually an emergency and what's not. So you're not really covered in Mexico with Medicare. Now, in Mexico, we have a public healthcare system, and that's called IMSS, which I also discuss in one of my videos. And then I also we're going to be talking about it in Relocating to Mexico, this next episode. And IMSS is sort of the equivalent to Medicare here in Mexico. The difference, though, is that you have to go to a certain hospital. You've got to go to the clinic. There is a way of paying for IMSS. IMSS it's kind of like Social Security. It might like Medicare. You've been paying into Social Security, and so you get this Medicare benefit. But IMSS is only for people that are employed and put into it. But there's a way of actually getting approved for it and paying for it on a yearly basis. And it's very inexpensive. I think, depending on your age, it can range anywhere from $300 to $700 or $800 a year. Now, here's the thing with IMSS. If you have high cholesterol, you are on many medications, anything like that, those are disqualifying factors, not to mention the fact that there's certain things that aren't covered. There's waiting periods. It's like a tiered system. You have to start off and certain things aren't covered the first year. Then they're covered the second year. And then other things are covered the third year. And then even then, you might have to wait for approval for an operation. And you can only go to an approved clinic. Not all the times do they have the medications that you need through IMSS. So there is a system here, somewhat like Medicare. But like I said, it's not, the Medicare system is not, or the IMSS system is not as robust as it is in the United States. And Medicare is not accepted here in Mexico. And Steffi said, thank you, Ernie. That was very helpful. We'll look into Aetna mail handlers. I am 71 and also have Medicare. I don't know. And maybe Steffi could answer this question because like I said, I haven't reached Medicare age yet. And I do know that if you live out of the country, you can opt out of Medicare. The only thing is if I ever go back, let's say 5 years after I opt out, I have to pay back the back pay or whatever, the back premiums from Medicare. And then the other thing that I need to find out, and I don't know, and maybe Steffi could answer this question for me, is about primary insurance and secondary. Does Medicare become your primary? But if I stay on Medicare, if I do opt to stay on Medicare and not opt out, can I still use my what do you call it, Aetna insurance? I'll have to check into that. That's one of my questions that I have. And Kevin, if you had Medicare and you don't use it and you say you shouldn't have to pay for it. And actually, Kevin, you don't have to pay for it if you don't live in the United States. Actually, you can opt out of Medicare if you're showing that, and you actually, I don't know if you have to show proof, but you can opt out of Medicare if you're not living in the United States. That's one of the exemptions for having, now you're paying your FICA taxes or whatever, but that's part of your Social Security. But as far as your premiums, because you got to remember Medicare, you still have to pay a premium out of your Social Security check to actually get the benefits. But you can actually opt out of that premium. Now you can't opt out of having to pay the taxes. That's just something that you pay, for your Social Security and your Social Security tax. But you can opt out of the premiums if you don't live in the United States. That's one of the things that you can do, and I do know that for a fact. And actually, you can opt out of the premiums, but you have issues later on if you get back on. But one of the exemptions, I think, is and I actually read this in the Social Security Administration website, is one of the options is that you can show that you don't have you don't live in the United States anymore, and you can opt out. And then Nerd Uno was saying, I had a sister-in-law use the IMSS because she was having very bad abdominal pain. She said she needed emergency surgery to only find nothing wrong worth having surgery for. She's left with a big scar going up her belly. Actually, Nerd, Uno, you actually bring up a good point. That goes back to what I was talking about a little while ago about IMSS. IMSS is not the perfect system. It's like I said, it's a public healthcare system. Many times, they don't even have the medication. I can tell you for a fact, my father-in-law, he goes to IMSS for certain things, and he gets his cholesterol medication, simple medications. We're talking cholesterol medication, metformin. Those little simple medications, sometimes he goes and there's not enough. We still have to go buy them at a pharmacy. Thank God that they're affordable. But I will tell you, the issue that you have there is that IMSS is not the best system in the world. In Mexico, the private healthcare system is the way to go if you can. Um, and it says here, but with IMSS, don't those who enroll privately take a back seat for services compared to those covered by employment? Also, if hospitalized, don't family and friends need to provide food and toiletries? Yes, that's one of the things with IMSS. Uh, and actually, a lot of this question that you're asking, I'm actually going to be answering with Mexico Relocation Guide in this next episode that we just did we just taped it a couple of weeks ago on healthcare. I just haven't had a chance to release it yet. But yes, that is true that you kind of take a back seat. Now, when you go to the clinic, you don't take a back seat, but stuff such as surgeries, getting them approved, those types of things are things that you do take a little bit of a back seat to those people that are employed, because those are the people that have been paying into this IMSS system for all their life that they've been working. Now, the thing about being hospitalized, one of the things is that IMSS does not cover, you know how in other countries you have a nurse that comes in, changes your bedding, all of that stuff, and kind of takes care of you. With IMSS, if you have a surgery, a family member has to stay with you 24 hours a day to take care of your necessities. For example, if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, you don't have a nurse to call and a button to push, and the nurse comes in and helps you go to the bathroom. No, your family member has to help you go to the bathroom. And your family member has to take care of those things that the nurse won't take care of overnight. So yes, a family member has to be there all the time. There's a lot of disadvantages to having IMSS. It seems like a really cool program. Now, here's the thing. I don't discourage IMSS, or I don't say, oh no, don't go get IMSS because it's worthless. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people that can't afford private health insurance. There's also another issue with private health insurance here in Mexico. Once you reach a certain age to enroll, you can enroll. You can stay enrolled. Like, for example, I have a policy, but once I reach 62, I don't remember. I think for my insurance policy is 62. Once I reach 62, if I get off that insurance, I can't get back on, or I cannot apply for the insurance again. So there's some people that come here and they're 65, 70 years old, and they can apply for Mexican private insurance. So they have to rely on IMSS. And that's a last resort. That's what I do advise, that it's a last resort. And let me see here. Kevin Tui, you also make another good point. Medicare opt-out may not be for the disabled. Here's a problem with disability insurance. There's certain types of disability insurance, not disability insurance, but certain types of disabilities that if you live in Mexico, you cannot, there's SSI and there's SSDI. And there's one of them that, the SSDI, I believe, is the one that you pay into. If you're disabled through SSDI, then you can receive payments. But through SSI, if you leave the country, you automatically lose your disability payments. So that, that's one thing that people that are on disability need to take into consideration. And then Standing Mannequin, a health plan should be about health, not dependency on toxic drugs that treat symptoms and create more symptoms. You know what, Standing Mannequin? I totally agree. And I will tell you one thing. One of the things that medical care here, I can tell you from my experience here in Mexico, in the private healthcare system, most of the doctors that I have tried to find a solution, not necessarily a drug solution. I've gotten better explanations on what my problems are. Not just literally explanations of how my body works, and the doctors the healthcare here is true healthcare. And I will tell you that I actually, one of the examples I give in my, is I'll just give you an example right now. My current example, and I'm not even talking about when I had cancer. I went to an endocrinologist. I have my endocrinologist WhatsApp number. I'm able to contact my endocrinologist through WhatsApp directly and ask him any questions I want to ask him. I even had some issues with the medication that I was taking. He put me on some new medication, and I started taking the medication, didn't feel well. And I didn't call, I actually WhatsApped the doctor. And the doctor actually speaks English, to be honest with you. And I texted him in English because I'm better with English than Spanish. And, and we had a dialogue that went back and forth. And he told me, okay, reduce the medication and you're not in a hurry to get up to the normal dose. And yes, it doesn't have these. And he explained to me everything on WhatsApp. I didn't have to go and get another appointment to see the doctor. Actually, even when I went for the consult, he said, you know what, go get these tests done. Send me the results, because when you go here and you get your blood test, you get your results. They give you your results. The doctor doesn't keep them, and you don't have to sign any releases. You get them yourself. They give them to you. And he says, just send them to me on WhatsApp and I'll tell you what to do. And based on what we've already had in our consultation. So, it has been a wake up experience comparing the U.S. system to here. I can't speak for Canada or any other country, but I can speak for Brazil and I can speak for here, that the quality, because I lived in Brazil for a little while, for 3 years when I was working. And I can tell you the quality of the healthcare here. Now, like I said, the quality of private healthcare here, and you pay for it. I'm not going to, like I said, I'm no bull. I've always said it, and I will tell you, you do pay for it. Now, do you pay for it the same amount of money that you pay in the United States? Not even a quarter. Like I said, a $4,000 MRI costs $260 here. So that kind of puts things in perspective. And Denise is making a comment. Please do not rely on IMSS if you're an expat or a retiree here. For nationals, this is often their only option. And their only option, and they have long waits and many hardships to get the care. That's true. And actually, it's not just true for nationals. It's also true for expats that enroll in it. It's the IMS system is overwhelmed. It's not like the Medicare system in the United States where you just go to a doctor that accepts Medicare. No, this is a system that's run by, you go to a certain clinic, you go to a certain designated clinic, you go to a certain designated hospital, and wait times are sometimes, it takes a while. And then Steffi says okay, she's answering my question here. You have to pay a 10% additional annual premium for Medicare for each year you don't take advantage of it. A penalty for the duration. Yes, and that's the penalty I was talking about, Steffi, that if you live in Mexico, you don't have to, you're exempt from that penalty. That's if you don't, that's the exemption. Now, and that's where I was looking into, because I live here, and these are the things that I'm starting to look into now that I'm getting there up in age. But one of the ways of opting out and not having to pay that penalty is if you can show that you live in a foreign country. Okay, once you become of age, Medicare by default becomes your primary insurance and FEP becomes your backup. And that's what I thought. But what I need to do is check with, what I'm going to do is check with Aetna, because one of the questions that I have is, if I don't have Medicare and I'm actually exempt from having Medicare because I live in a foreign country, will they still cover me overseas? And actually, when I get that answer, I will definitely do a video on that, because that's something that I think many federal employees would want to know. And Kevin, I think you're referring to my insurance. He says, I'm just 62. Um, I think you're referring to my insurance thing where my particular insurance won't take you after 62. Actually, there's some couple of other insurance companies that will take you after 62. Um, but I don't have a list of those right now. But there are. I just have my policy happens to be through New York Life, uh, and they're the ones that don't let you go. It's called Seguros Monterrey, which won't let you go past 62. And nerd Uno, there's no money in cures. And actually, I have to tell you something, Uno. Uh, That's true. And one of the problems, and I'm not criticizing the US healthcare system, there's a lot of great technology, a lot of research that's in the United States healthcare system, but I think sometimes the US healthcare system worries too much about the money and not so much about the cure. And one thing that I've experienced here in Mexico is that the cure is a little bit more important than the money. Um, Doctors here are not like they are in the United States. A doctor's is basically a normal profession. Being a doctor here is a normal profession. Um, and maybe if you're a surgeon, you make a little bit. You're an upper middle class, but not really rich. Um, Even the best surgeons here, they're upper middle class. They don't hold millions and millions of dollars in liability insurance because they're protected under certain laws. So you're going to find that the private healthcare system is a lot more open to telling you what's wrong with you, to doing what they need to do, to finding a cure instead of saying, let's just take this medicine. One of the things that I noticed in the United States, a lot of drug companies influence what the doctors prescribe. People are I have a couple of friends that work in the pharmaceutical industry, and that's what they do. They go to the doctor's offices and give them free samples and tell them how great their drug is. So it doesn't work that way here in Mexico. So you have a little bit more of I guess you might say, a little bit more of a neutral attitude towards things, open-mindedness towards treatments and that type of thing here in Mexico. And that's great to hear about Mexico healthcare. Thanks you for sharing the experience. It was my pleasure, Standing Mannequin. And like I said, I've had nothing but great things to say about private healthcare insurance. And what about Medicare and those? What about Medicare and those who have been going to the VA for healthcare? Yeah, not Mexico related directly. Um, you know what? I'm not too familiar with the VA, and also or TRICARE. I think TRICARE is the the insurance that's kind of connected to the VA. I don't know exactly how it works. And that's one of the questions. Now, I do know a couple of people that actually come here to McAllen, Texas to do their VA stuff. Um, but I don't know how TRICARE handles emergencies overseas. Now, I do know there's not a VA hospital in Mexico, so I don't really know how that works. Um, but I do know that a lot of people come here. And actually, I do know a lot of people that come here and make their trip yearly to the United States that are Medicare because they need to have an operation, a knee surgery, whatever it might be. They stay with family. They do it through their Medicare, and they go back home. They come back home to Mexico. And Wise Owl basically says penalties for plans outside of Part A. Part A is no cost as long as you have paid into the system to qualify and you are enrolled automatically. Yes. I'm not too familiar with, I'll tell you what, Wise Owl, I'm not too familiar with Medicare and Medicaid, but I know that Part A only covers certain things, Part B or Part C, Part D. I know that there's different parts. That's something that I really need to look into because, like I said, I have the government insurance, I have Mexican insurance, and then soon in a couple of years, I'm going to have to look into what I'm going to do for Medicare and Medicaid. And we have Gringos R Us joining us today, and they're almost to Mexico. And actually, Gina and Mark, who are actually run a YouTube channel called Gringos R Us. I'll leave an actual link to their YouTube channel. They actually started their YouTube journey with their journey of everything from selling their house to selling their stuff to how they prepared, how they decided where to live. They even have a nice little spreadsheet from what I understand. And they're getting ready. They've decided to move to Querétaro. And one of the things that I'm actually going to meet them in November here in McAllen, and I'm going to take them down to Monterrey and one of their legs on their trip. But one of the things that Gringos R Us are saying is that pre-existing condition requirements are fairly strict in Mexico. If you are on meds, no longer on them, and new Mexican doctor says you have a clean bill of health, how do Mexican insurance determine pre-existing conditions? I'll tell you what. Most of it has to do with they make you fill out a health insurance questionnaire. Some private insurances will make you get blood work. So if you're high in cholesterol, then they're going to have you do the blood work. And some make you go through a physical exam. So let's say you've had open heart surgery. Of course, when you get a physical exam, they're going to take your shirt off. And if they see that you have, scars and that type of thing. So sometimes it's easy to get in and sometimes it's not so easy to get into the private healthcare insurance. For example, I got accepted into my insurance policy, them knowing I had cancer. And what I have is I have my insurance policy that will cover me, but it will not cover me if it's cancer related. So for head and neck cancer, I got lucky because some people, if they say they had cancer, they're disqualified from any insurance period. So you have to, it's just a luck of the draw. And also if you have a good insurance agent that knows what they're doing, that can, if you tell them, hey, I'm on high cholesterol medication, but I don't really want the insurance company to know or whatever. Sometimes they'll work with you, but you just need to find a really good insurance agent that'll work with you. So sometimes, and also sometimes the pre-existing conditions can be, okay, I have high cholesterol. So they'll tell you, all right, well, okay, you control it under medication. The doctor says you're not going to be a health risk. They might say, okay, well, if you get a heart attack in the next 5 years, we won't cover you. So there's a lot of different things with the healthcare insurance. The best thing to do is to get a good healthcare insurance representative to guide you through that, and somebody that knows all of this stuff. And I can tell you from personal experience, sometimes it can be an easy experience, and sometimes it can be a very what do you call it? Not so easy experience. TRICARE is for dependents. Like I said, I don't know much about the VA benefits, to be honest with you. I went in straight from college into federal service, into federal law enforcement. So I was never in the military. And so I'm not too familiar with the VA benefits. Now I do know, like I said, the VA doesn't cover you overseas. Now I don't even know if, to be honest with you, if you're covered, like for example, in certain countries where they have military bases. So that's something that I'm not too familiar with. The reason why I mentioned TRICARE is because I was just talking to Mexico Relocation Guide about VA benefits and how they work and if they work overseas. and TRICARE was one of the things that was, and I know it's always thrown around. The words always thrown around. So I'm really not too, but thank you for enlightening me. I always learn something new. And actually, I learn something new from you guys all the time. Like I've said in my other videos, I'm not an expert. I'm just here to give you my experience. I'm just here to share what I know, what I've experienced, and what I've researched. That's all. And you know what? I've learned a lot. And some of the things, we get into this expert mentality. A lot of people have even asked me, what makes you an expert to talk on this? And I'm not an expert. There's nobody really that's an expert here in Mexico. There's people that do their research that know a lot. I'm not going to say that but I'm not going to call anybody an expert because we're all in a learning process. I'm learning every day. Just right now, I learned that TRICARE is for dependents. I'm learning a lot about different things that I just learned a little bit about Medicare. And those are things that I'm not too aware of. And even when it comes to Mexico, I've actually learned a lot of things from my viewers that have either corrected me or have answered a question that I said I just don't know the answer to. And that's something that I appreciate. And that's one great thing about moving to Mexico is I have this journey that I'm always learning. And then he said, I had to get blood work done to get insurance in Mexico and an EKG. Yeah, actually, blood work is pretty standard. An EKG would be pretty standard. Some of them make you do full health. I didn't have to do a full healthcare screening. Basically, all I did was I sent them my blood work along with I sent my blood work along with my health questionnaire that they made me fill out. And Wise Owl, I purchased private healthcare insurance with GNP or GMP, one of the largest in Mexico at age 62. And I will tell you, GMP, that GNP or GMP is who I have my auto insurance with. They are the largest company in Mexico. Just questionnaire, no tests, no checkups required, no pre-existing conditions. Now I do know GNP does not cover pre-existing conditions, but like I said, if it wasn't asked in the questionnaire, then I don't know how would they know. But I do know that because we actually have a friend who works as an insurance agent for GNP, and we asked them about the pre-existing conditions, and it's pretty much standard. But going back to Gringos or Us, how thorough they check depends, and it goes from insurance company to insurance company. For example, Wise Owl just said, hey, I filled out a questionnaire, didn't do blood work. Denise said, hey, I had to do blood work and an EKG. So it all depends. And don't feel bad if you need to go to another, if you feel that this is too restrictive from one insurance agent, see if another insurance agent will work with you and if they can come out better. And I really love this live stream because you know what? It's about the thing that I like the most about my community is it's not about me telling you guys all about Mexico and what to do. And I've always said everything is your decision. But what's so great, even in this live stream, is you guys are helping each other out and everybody's sharing their experience. Like I said, just on the insurance right now, Steffi's sharing her experience, and actually she just was telling Wise Owl, Part A is hospitalization and free, already paid for. Part B is a standard office visits, etc. I believe we're required to make that selection, but now I have to double check. So, we're learning from each other. I'm not the authority here. I'm here. I created this community so that we could all learn from each other. We could share experiences. And I'm just fortunate enough that I have a little bit of experience in the areas of living here, having family here, uh, being married to a Mexican citizen also, and being very up to date on the politics here, the and the news media, and also I also had the opportunity to work with the Mexican government when I was working uh, for the U.S. government, so I know how the government works. So I'm able to take a lot of information that comes out of the news media and put it together and deduce certain things because I know the way the Mexican government works. So that's what makes me different than everybody else. But all I am is sharing my experience with everybody. And I want everybody to be able to share their experiences with each other. Um, One thing that you can never count on in Mexico is like a perfect example is Denise had to do one thing for insurance and Wise Owls had to do another thing for insurance. There's no consistency as to how things work here. So you really need to sit down and do your research. And um, and that's the key is doing research. And Denise, it's hard to stay on top of it too because rules change often. Yes, rules do change often. And we're seeing that a lot now with immigration. We're seeing that a lot now with the FMM process that they're going paperless. So and actually even those rules are changing from day to day. Um, so you know the rules are changing. I will say one thing: in the past 3 years, I've seen the rules change more often than normal. Uh, Previous to about 5 years ago, I would say things were status quo and the rules really didn't change. Um, the only difference was when they wanted to apply the rules, they would apply the rules. Um, but I think the rules are being applied a lot more now often, and the rules are changing because I think Mexico is really having to adjust to a lot of things. And the rules are changing and they're coming up to speed with a lot of technology that they didn't have before. And Nerd Uno said that in an Oxxo a couple of years back, I saw prepaid cards for healthcare. I have not seen them since. No, I'm interested in them again. I, I prepaid cards for healthcare. That'd be great if they had them, but I have never seen them. Um, and actually, in the whole time that I haven't seen any prepaid cards for healthcare at all. But and let me see here. Ringos are us. I'm going to take a couple of more. We're going on an hour here, so I'm going to kind of be going pretty soon here. If Murphy's Law continues to hit us every time we do anything official, we will have to do it 3 times before it's done. Well, I kind of agree with you, but I will tell you one thing, Gina and Mark, I will tell you one thing. Mexico is getting a little bit more consistent with what they're doing. It's just a matter of time. Um, and and I think you guys have done your research very, very well. And I don't think you're going to have to do it 3 times because I think you figured out. Um, and I just hold on here. Yeah, somebody just tried to come onto the broadcast and I banned them. Um, so, like I said, I think you've done your homework very well. And you're not going to have to do it 3 times because I know that when you get here, you're going to have a good facilitator, and and you're gonna know uh, what you need to do, and especially the big thing that you're going to have to go through is the immigration process, and you're just going to have to get used to things not working as quickly as they do back home. Um, but you will see it's not going to be as hard for you guys, but sometimes you do. When we came here, I will tell you one thing. we had to do when I get my immigration process, we had to go back and forth to the office 3 or 4 times because we tried to do it ourselves instead of hiring a facilitator. So, well, I think I'm going to end it on that note. I want to thank everybody for coming by, and I want to thank everybody for joining me on my live stream. I will be getting back to the videos and getting back to the shorts soon. This Wednesday, if you can tune in, I did put on my community tab where I'm going to be appearing live with a Mexico relocation guide and almost retired in Mexico. And when I come out on the podcast, I will definitely leave a link. And hope you guys enjoyed this live stream. Until next time, we'll see you soon.